Thank you so much for joining us for another in our series, A Story to Tell. And today we have a very interesting guest who will be sharing her journey with us. Her name is Stacey Williams. Is it Stacey Ann Williams or Stacey Williams?
Stacey Williams. And it's my middle name, actually.
See, I got it right. So we have Stacey Ann Williams who will be sharing her journey with us. But before we get into the meat of the matter, just to highlight our sponsor, Kevandra Enterprise, for the very best in tires and lubricants for your motor vehicle. So if you're not sure what lubricants is or what you use the lubricants to do with the vehicle, like the engine oil or the brake fluid or the power steering, those are the lubricants. And for tires now, they have brands such as Goodyear, Firestone, Bridgestone, and all of the other big brands. So you just give them a call at 876-384-4892. That's 876-384-4892. So that's Kevandra Enterprise for the best in your tires and also lubricants for your motor vehicle. All right, so Stacey, I'm so delighted to have you, and I know the viewers will also appreciate hearing such a journey. It will give persons strength who have no strength, and also will serve as an example to those who are going through similar experiences and not sure what to do. So we're gonna start from your earlier years, Stacey. I know it's a lot of you that your parents had. Take us back to those earlier years, probably, when you're going to primary school. What school you went to?
So I attended Alpha Primary School.
Alpha.
And it's not necessarily a lot of us that my parents had. It was really my father that had the majority.
Oh, he was a good Samaritan. Always
he was
giving
indeed.
Mm-hmm.
But I started Alpha Primary actually in the 3rd grade. Prior to that, I was attending Holy Rosary Preparatory School on Gibbs Avenue. It's pretty much in the Winard Road area. And I remember in the 2nd grade, we got a letter to take home to say that the school was going to be closed due to financial constraints. So I took that letter home, and I really didn't see my parents making any move to say, okay, where am I going to go come September?
Yes.
So I ended up going to St. George's Girls Summer School. I didn't really feel like that was the fit for me. I went there for a week, and then I went to Alpha Primary Summer School thereafter. Once I got there, I felt like this was where I wanted to be. And so I remember going to the principal and asking her, how could I get myself into school? And she gave me the forms and stuff, took it home, and told my parents, look, you guys just need to sign this up. And they did their part, and then I took it back in, and I pretty much got myself into primary school. So
how old were you at that time? About 5, 6?
Well, that would have been 3rd grade. So
3rd grade. Okay, because you were already in Holy Rosary.
Right.
So about 8 years old.
So 8 grade 9, yeah.
And you took the initiative to do that. That's very good.
Oh yes.
So would you say you are a responsible child? People could depend on you to do stuff without following you up?
I think for me, I knew exactly what I wanted. From an early age, I also recognized, the struggles that existed within my family financially, because, I was born and raised in the inner city community of Southside. So, I saw the struggles, and based on what I saw, I knew that my only way out of that struggle would be to invest in my education. So even when it came on to my tuition being paid and, getting books. I remember one of my uncles said, if I came first in my class, every year, then he would purchase my books. I know my parents were struggling. And so I ensured that every year I came first in the class so that they could get that assistance. I also had enrolled in the Salvation Army Church and became a member, actively teaching Sunday school, doing all of that. And once I had passed my common entrance to attend Alpha Academy, I went to the church and I said, look, are there any scholarships? Is there any assistance I can get? And right there and then, they signed me up for the Women Auxiliary Scholarship, and I was able to get that assistance for high school. So, I took my future into my own hands for the most part.
Yes.
And I didn't wait on my parents to make moves when it came on to me excelling. I took that initiative and took responsibility for that.
Yes. So after Alpha Primary, you went on to high school. It was GSAT those days, or it was common entrance? Was it common entrance?
No, common entrance.
Common entrance.
It was common entrance.
Yes. So when you were in like grade 6 you did it, or grade 5? Grade 5. You knew of any high school at that time? Because some children, they don't really aware of the next step. Were you aware which school you wanted to go to?
Well, because of the fact that, like I said, my father fathered 18 kids and my mom had 6 of us. I was the last child for my mom and second to last for my dad. So everybody was pretty much older than me. So, I saw, examples. So in my grandmother's home, like everybody there was either going to Alpha or Excelsior. So it wasn't like rocket science for me. I actually chose those 2 schools as my choices. So Alpha was my first choice and Excelsior was my second choice. So and I mean, having been a student at Alpha Primary, I would have known of Alpha Academy as well, because we're pretty much in the same vicinity,
same compound. Yeah,
right. So I chose Alpha and Excelsior, and I passed for Alpha, which was my first choice, and I was very happy with that.
So how was your high school years? Were you involved in any like activities at school apart from taking your education very seriously, which I see that you have that down from early?
High school was, a big transition, because you're accustomed to, probably at primary school, you're doing maths, English, mental ability, social studies, and science. And then you are dropped into this situation where you have like 13 different classes to take. And it was really a lot. And I don't think in those days we really got, any kind of preparation to transition us. So it was frightening at first. But gradually you got into the groove of things, you made friends, and you kind of got that little support at school. At home, because everybody was pretty much older than I was, I would get that support at home in terms of, for the different subjects and anything that I might be having a challenge with. By this time, I had moved from my parents' house in Southside, and I was sent to live with my grandmother in Vineyard Town, which was an extended family, because there were my siblings, my aunts, uncles, cousins. It was just a house, a blended house mixed with a lot of persons and a lot of personalities. But that too, was a good experience. So high school on a whole, it was difficult at the start, but I managed to, try and find my way through. I don't think I was able to perform at the same level I was performing, at primary school. As you can imagine, there's a mixture of students now, and the competition is very stiff.
Very strong, yes.
Right. So whilst I wasn't coming first, second, or third in the class, I was still doing top 10. That to me was, was satisfying in that time, because I'm saying, you're in a class with like 40 students, and if you're still in top 10, not too bad.
Not too bad. So you went through Alpha and you did your CXCs. Those were okay to your standards, or you weren't feeling pleased?
I took 9 subjects and I passed all 9.
So that's pretty much mission accomplished.
Oh, yes.
So at that point, what in your mind, what you had at your next move? Would you go to work, seeing that your family would need the funds, or go on to further education?
Right. So I had actually applied for 6th form at Alpha, and had actually been accepted for 6th form at Alpha. But I got involved with an older person, an older male, and was offered the opportunity to actually study in England. Now, for me, it was like a no-brainer, because I knew the struggles that existed when it came on to like my parents and them being able to assist me, because even through high school, most of the assistance I got came from my older siblings and also this older man,
Mm-hmm.
in the later years, like fourth, fifth form. But, so once it is that I was offered the opportunity, it was a no-brainer. I said, I had to do this because this was me actually trying to make things better, get a better life, and in turn,
Mm-hmm.
being able to actually assist my parents
Mm-hmm.
because I saw what their situations were. So I left for England right after high school.
So question,
Mm.
I'm not sure if, for me, I think we're probably in the same age range. Certain conversations for those parents in those era, it wasn't so forthcoming. You getting involved with an older man, your mother, your father was aware. What was their take
My
on that?
father was not aware. My father
Yes.
didn't know. But my mother knew who I was going to and where I was going. She was
Mm-hmm.
aware. And I guess at that time, you're out of school, you're pretty much considered an adult
Adult, yes.
because you can either, go and work and go on
Mm-hmm.
your own. So for her, even if she wanted to say, don't go, that
You
she
would,
knew
you'd
that,
have gone
pretty
anyway.
much it's my decision.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, probably in, her thinking would be her telling me not to go would also be selfish of her because she knew she didn't have the wherewithal to support me
Mm-hmm.
and, to take me on, to push me further. So if it is that I saw this as an opportunity to actually, elevate me and elevate myself, then
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she would have saw it fit to say, don't take the opportunity, because that's how it was presented, as an opportunity. It looked very rosy at the start.
So it was an opportunity for you to go to school
Right,
overseas. Okay.
right,
And that would have been nursing. Was it
right,
nursing? Yeah.
right. So I was told that there's a shortage of nurses in England, and they're rolling out this program where you can
Mm-hmm.
enroll and they'll pretty much pay the tuition,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be paid a stipend, until you actually finish the course. And despite the fact that nursing was not my career choice, um, while through school, I was adamant I was going to become a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, I'm saying, okay, this is an opportunity to go overseas. And I mean, in those days, in 2001, like everybody did want to go for it. That's just the reality. Like,
It's not in 2001. Even now, 2022, everybody still want girlfriend. That will never change because the economic condition of Jamaica, persons are always gonna be seeking better opportunity.
right,
And UK and USA and Canada are always on the top three of lists of places that persons want to go because it just presents more opportunities for you to grow and strive. So you're now in England. You got
mhm.
settled in quickly. How was that process? Let me know.
Let's see. I don't know if this is a trick question.
It's not.
But,
It's not. It's not a trick question,
all right. So
Just give it to me straight.
9 hours worth of flight. And once I got to immigration there, I was going about my business. I was kind of pulled aside. But first, I should say that while I was in the line waiting to go to the immigration officer, like there was this bench to a side, and like everybody in front of me was going over to the bench. So I was like, oh, okay, all right, need to ensure I go over the bench. But I started rethinking, and I was like, no, it seemed like who go over the
Yeah.
bench going back home.
Yes.
So,
Don't go to the
I
bed.
start praying. I start praying like hard. I said, oh, please don't make me go over the bench. But I got through. I got my passport was stamped for one
Mm-hmm.
month
Mm-hmm.
to say to visit, and
Mm-hmm.
exited, went out, and the gentleman was there waiting for me. And while on our way from the airport, his phone was just going off constantly. And when he answered, and I heard the female on the line going off and saying, they heard that he's he has sent for me, and I'm in England, and
Who was that female, may I ask?
Okay, so this was supposed to have been his estranged wife. As far
Yes.
as I was aware, they were separated. No,
But not
at whatever
divorced.
not divorced. But at whatever point he decided or they decided to rekindle the relationship and to work on things, I was not made aware of that. I was not informed of that.
So you're now
So
caught in
I
a
was,
love triangle.
oh yes, and it moved from triangle to square because there were so many persons involved.
Oh
At
my
one
God.
point, it was just not the three of us. So it became very interesting very quickly.
So when you realized that this situation was getting a little interesting, as you said, were you having doubts about staying, or you're a strong-willed person that just want to push through?
No. I told him, I was like, you know what? I'm going to spend a month and I'm going to go back home. You know, that was my thought process. I said, I'll just stay for the month and then I'll go back home. And I don't even know why I said I'd stay for the month, because probably I should have just, you know, as fast as I got there, I should have just turned around and come back home. But I was like, you know, I'm going to stay for the month and come back home. And then, you know, I reached out to my mother and I was like, this is what is happening. And, you know, she agreed to say, all right, you know, yeah, come back home. But he called my mother and he painted a totally different picture to her. And said to her that, you know, we need to focus on the real reason I was there and the fact that I was there to better myself and better my life. And, you know, he was saying, what is she coming back to Jamaica to do? You are not in a financial position to assist her, neither is her father. So what is going to happen to her? You know, is she just going to stay there and waste away or whatever? So, you know, everything was covered. It was sold to us to say, this is the best thing for her right now.
He sounds like a very good salesperson.
Yes.
He would do well in sales. He would do well in sales because he does give a convincing pitch and people buy it.
Oh, yes.
And I take it that he has used this strategy throughout your relationship. And he does a good job at it. So where you end up staying, he had a different place from the estranged.
Yes. So he had a house that was rented. His brother's girlfriend, he was living there, and another young lady was there as well. So it was a shared house. And I got there, got settled in, but clearly, you know, there was this, like I'm saying, there's this fire that was burning that he needed to go and sort out, because on our entire journey from the airport, you know, the phone was just going off, and the calls and the messages and all of that. So, you know, something was brewing. So once we got to the house, he left me there and said to me that, you know, I'd soon be back. And that was that. So, you know, he came back as promised. And later that night while we were sleeping, you know, I kept hearing the sound and I wasn't sure what was going on, because you know, I later realized it was the doorbell. I'm not used to doorbell because Jamaica, they use stone and knock down the gate. I am nice, right? So I was sleeping, but I kept hearing this sound, and I was
keep ringing.
What is that sound? And then I kind of said him jump up, and then he's like, "Oh, pack up your things," and I'm like, "What's going on?" Pack up your things. And then, you know, his brother's girlfriend was downstairs, and, you know, he kind of went and knocked her up, and he's like, can I let her come in the room? But all this time I was confused. I was like, what's going on? And, you know, later I realized that, you know, it's a wife that was outside that was ringing the doorbell.
Okay.
Clearly, he had told his family that he was taking me there to England. So they told her about my arrival. So that's how come she knew.
Oh my God.
So she came there in search of me.
And she wasn't pleased?
No, not at all. So she came there in search of me. She didn't find me. She didn't have any confirmation that I was there. And, you know,
so she went in the room? She went in the room?
Yeah, man. And then they were arguing and fighting and everything.
But you were in another room?
I was in another room. And, you know, his brother's girlfriend came out and said to her that she had to leave. You know, she's like, look, it's after hours, everybody's asleep. You can't come here disturbing the peace. You need to leave. So they both left.
They both left?
Yes. So I was in his brother's girlfriend. Remember, this is a stranger. I don't know the lady from anywhere. And I couldn't sleep the whole night. I was like, what is this? You know.
And just imagine
And it's not like it was a situation that I was
And
accustomed to
how
where,
old were you at that time?
I was 16.
Oh my. This is a 16-year-old in this situation.
Mhm.
Why? I pray for you. So what happened the next day?
Next day when he resurfaced with a fractured finger. So clearly, the once they left, the fight continued and all of that. So he resurfaced with a fractured finger. And he was like, don't worry about anything, everything is sorted out now because fact that she came here and you weren't here, she recognized that my family was just lying to her and they were just trying to stir up trouble.
Mm-mm.
So, that was that. And I was okay for the most part because like you said, she didn't come and see me, so
Yeah.
she was okay. And it wasn't until I think what she had done was to go through his phone, so she saw where, because in his phone, even to the time he and I, before we parted ways, the numbers in his phone aren't stored under names. There are a
Yeah.
lot of codes.
What was your code name? 007?
You know?
What was your code
I
name?
don't
Do
know.
you
I
know?
don't
You
know
don't
what
know.
man. I don't know
Until
what
this
man
day,
was
you
now
don't know.
called. I don't know what man was, but I have seen them and I've seen like AAB, BDC. It's
What?
letters. It's letters. So I don't know how he remembers whose name it is, but trust me, he had a thing going with that.
My
But I
God.
think what she did was to look at what numbers he frequently called.
Yes. And I start
And
start with
and
those and
she
narrow
took
it
them out the
down.
phone. She took them out the phone.
So she found
And
your number and
oh
called you.
yes, oh yes, man.
How was that first conversation with
You
what what
know what
what is
was
she to you now? Yeah, not your
let's see, and
friend.
she's we're not
Not your
related.
friend. Not your friend. I
Not
think she
at
consider
all.
you an enemy.
Not at all. But the first time she called me, like I answered and I heard the voice. And once I heard the voice and I recognized it was her, I hung up the phone. Because in all honesty, I'm saying that both of us were brought in this situation because of this man, and in my thought process was we're both kind of innocent in the thing, and I'm not going to have an argument with her because I understand her position. Because if it is that he gave you the impression like you're going to work on this marriage and thing, and then him bring an ex-woman there, then I understand why she would be angry and why she would be upset. So my thing was, I'm not going to argue with her because I totally understand what was going on with her.
So everything
But
you just told me in the past 20 seconds, you said that to her, I was in your head.
in my head, so every time she would call me constantly, but every time I recognized it was her, I hung up the phone because I said I'm not going to do it. But I realized that by hanging up, I think she thought
It's worse in the
me an
situation.
idiot.
Yeah.
She think me an idiot, you know?
Yeah.
And because of that, she kept calling, and sending some messages, and it was just going on and on and on. And one day it just became too much. And I just had to tell her off. I just had to tell her the truth. Yeah, I couldn't take it anymore. And I was not accustomed to these kinds of situations.
Yes.
Because as much as I lived in an extended family situation, and them used to cuss and war and whatever, that was very present. But I didn't have the need to be in any of those situations, So this was new to me, and it just became too much. And I just had to tell her my mind. And once I did that, she did kind of, because what I should say is that by this time now, I'm living on my own, right? So
you move out of that house?
no, the house that the gentleman
So
let
what do you
me
mean by
back.
living on your own?
Because
You
him
are
not gonna
covering the
stay with him.
bills?
No. Meaning
Okay.
that he comes to visit me.
Okay,
He stays at
visiting.
his wife.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Oh my
So
God.
even that situation was not something I expected because I thought, okay, I'm going to be with this man. I never bargained for none of that.
So the 1 month not up yet? More hear what happened with the 1 month. Fast forward to the 1 month. The 1 month up?
The 1 month up, and we decided that because I got into college, I started going to school. I was doing my A levels, and my passport was sent off for for a student visa and for my time to be extended and all of that. So passport sent off. So the 1 month up passport sent off before the 1 month up. So when all of this started, I don't even have my passport.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was at the Home Office pending a decision.
Approval,
application. Yeah. Right. So, I go to college and go and do my thing and whatever not. But about December of 2001, because I left in September, about December, I never feel too good. Started feeling really sick. And I didn't know what was really going on. But the thing is, like, for me, I had always had an irregular menstrual cycle. So I didn't have a period like in November.
Stacey, nobody tell me I'm pregnant, you're pregnant. Nobody tell me that. Is that?
That was it.
So how did that happen?
That was it. So you see, when I did that test like the January, because like I said, it was normal for me not to have a period for like 2-3 months at that time. But
you weren't paying any attention to it. Yeah.
So I never paid. I said, but when it got to like the end of January, and Mr. February, I got started to know something wrong. Something definitely wrong. And I mean, when I did that test and I saw those 2 lines on that stick.
Confirm.
Look here, I think I got dead.
You went like to the doctor to get a proper confirmation and things.
Afterwards, I did.
Yes.
I did, but I did the home test first. And then I went to the doctor and
they said yes.
Confirmed. They said yes. And I told him about it. And in that moment, in all honesty, I'm saying I'm not going to keep this child. I'm like, no,
you're not ready for that because you're still 16. Are you 17?
I would have been 17. Yeah.
17, yeah.
Because my birthday was in January, so I'd have been 17. And I was saying, based on everything that was happening, yes, I was going to school and all that, but I had gotten to the point now where I was saying that, boy, when them send back the passport this time for real, I'm going to go home because it was becoming a little bit too much. So when a child came into the mix, I'm like, oh, I can't go home with me. That can't work. So, I really said to the gentleman, look, probably I'm thinking about not having this child. And his words were like, if you opt to have an abortion, then you're on your own here. So you'd have to figure out things until you get back your passport and you're able to leave.
So why do you think he said that? He has children before that?
Yeah, he had 1 son at the time.
So why would he want another one under this circumstance? In hindsight, looking back.
The thing is, it's control and it's manipulation. Because I have no family in this country. I have nobody at all. And for you to say to me, if it is that I go that route, then I'm going to be left on my own. It simply means you're saying to me, you need to have this child because I don't have any other option. If you're going to put me out of the place that you're providing and you're going to stop assisting or you're assisting, then what am I left to do? And I don't have a passport to leave. And even if I was to leave, somebody would still need to buy me a ticket to leave because I don't have it. So it was definitely manipulation because right there and then, the fact that I would have a child for him, everything is going to change. That is like him tying up my foot right there. But I don't regret having my son. I have no regrets.
Yeah, you can't regret that now, but in that time, it seemed like there's a distraction from the whole school thing and control.
I continue to go to university just the same. So, I remember I was due to give birth August 30th. And up to the end of July, I was still in college, finishing up all of my coursework and all of that. So I actually, I completed my A-levels being pregnant. I didn't stop.
So fast forward to know when the day of the delivery, describe that day for us, how you were feeling and how you got to the hospital, and just give us that detail, that very special day.
So I went into labor like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
the morning of the 28th of August. So they had given me the 30th, and I started feeling pain the 28th of August.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I started feeling pain, like I said, he was living separate from me. So I messaged him to say, this is what is happening. And he said, okay, once you're ready to go to the hospital, let me
Just let
know,
him
and
know,
I'll come
yes.
and I'll come and pick you up. I said, okay, no problem. When it came time for me to go to the hospital, and I reached out and I said, I'm ready to go, I didn't see him coming. Now, his brother's girlfriend, who had become like a mother figure to me,
Mm-hmm.
she was the one who, because, she kind of took me under her wings because she
Yes.
recognized,
The situation, and she
what
just
was
took the
happening.
initiative, yes.
And she took the initiative, right? Yes. So, I mean, she was leaving to go to her mother's house for the week. And she said to me, she wanted to ensure that, my bag was packed. She packed my bag. She gave me some money to say, just in case I need to take a cab, so she made those preparations. So when I reached out to him, I also reached out to her to say that, I'm in labor and all of that. And she didn't drive.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to wait on public transportation to start running in the morning. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she got there before him.
Wow, so like he was coming from far.
She got there, and he didn't live that far from where I was, because like I was in an area called West Norwood and he lived in an area called South Norwood.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in close proximity.
Yes.
So, she came and we took the cab, and she was the one that was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we got to the hospital and she was calling him and everything, and he was on his way, he never showed up.
Mm-hmm.
After I gave birth, and she called him to say that, I was hungry, there was no food there because breakfast time had passed and all of that, and he was to bring some food. He didn't come with the food.
He didn't come with the food, so it was a no-show.
It was a no-show. And it remained like that because he didn't see my son until approximately a week or 2 weeks after he was born.
Mm-hmm.
So he was
So
a no-show until then.
So during all of this, how were you able to sustain yourself? Were you working, or he was providing some source of income?
I wasn't working. So his brother's girlfriend was the one she used to work on the weekends. She had a son, and, she decided to give me the job of babysitting her son on the weekends while she went
Mm-hmm.
to work, and then she would pay me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I was able to, generate a little income.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, she ensured that, I was fed, because
Mm-hmm.
even when it came on to me getting groceries and all, that wasn't consistent. That
Mm-hmm.
wasn't consistent at all. And if it is that he and I had any kind of disagreement, then anything that he was supposed to have done would not get done.
Yeah. And I can imagine that, because he's gonna be upset and it's gonna take a while for him to cool off, and I'm not gonna have anything to do with it. So you were doing that little babysitting and getting, was that enough to sustain yourself?
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. But whatever she gave me was what I used to actually purchase stuff
Mm-hmm.
for the baby, so that I could actually have a bag packed
Mm-hmm.
to take to the hospital for delivery. Because when I had said to him that, look, I need to start buying up stuff, he said to me that baby don't need nothing until after they're born.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, her doing that for me was a blessing in itself, because, that was what allowed me to be able to go and, buy my receiver, buy my little monkey suit and my this, but that,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
not, because outside of that, the baby would be born and would be naked in the hospital.
Would be naked. They
Mhm.
normally give you they never give you a blanket.
Yeah, they will wrap him up in a blanket for the first year, right?
So question, after you have him and cuddling him up and thing, and time come for you to feed him, was there any milk coming from your breast?
No, no.
No milk?
He was born on the Wednesday, and breast milk didn't come until the Saturday. So they had actually started him on formula. So when they
Mm-hmm.
discharged me from the hospital the Friday, I still had no milk. They gave me a few bottles of milk, but as
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine, in no time that was done.
Finish, yes.
Right. So even when I was discharged, I called his father and I said, I've been discharged. And he said, okay, I'm coming to pick you up. And I was there for hours. Some friends of mine that came, because, I eventually found these people. And they came, and when they saw the time and they said, no, you can't have the baby out so late, they were the ones who called a cab
Yeah.
and took me home. And when I got home and the milk finished, and I'm there looking, and his brother's girlfriend called him and said, look, you need to bring some formula. The baby needs formula, and he didn't show up. It was actually her brother, because her financial situation was also tight. She was a single parent as well, trying to navigate. So, her taking me on as a responsibility,
The extra pressure on her. So when the milk came the Saturday, the breast milk came the Saturday.
Her brother was the one, it came, right?
Yes.
So the Friday night we were able to survive because her brother brought the formula. And then Saturday morning, bright and early, like you find gold, milk was just spewing all over. So that was one problem solved.
So have your little son and everything. What is going through your mind with all that's going on, and even the no-show that must have played a big impact on you to see that's a special day. It's like the first day at school. If you miss that, if you miss the graduation, you can't get that back in. You miss a wedding, those special occasions, once you miss it, you can't relive it. Yeah. So what was going through your mind at that time?
At that point in time, what rested on me heavily was the fact that I felt like I had disappointed everyone. I felt as though, what I went to England to achieve, I did not achieve it, but I somehow ended up with a child. And, the thoughts kept plaguing my mind as to what are people going to say? Because I must say, I didn't tell my mom I was pregnant until I was about 7 months.
Yes, because you were concerned with what she would say.
Oh, yes. I was very concerned about the reaction. But those are the thoughts that, weighed heavily on me as to what people are going to say. And I know, like, my friends that I'd left behind, everybody who was looking to whether finish up sixth form, who was going to UA, none of them
everybody
had a
making
child
progress.
at that time.
Everybody making progress, and you going backwards, so to speak. I can imagine.
And then when I saw his reaction, it kind of, opened my eyes. I was like, what am I to expect? Because if it is that your own child, this is your initial reaction, then I was worried as to what is to come. Especially knowing that I was not gainfully employed.
So you got a job subsequently after that?
I did.
And tell us about that little job that you got, and then move on from there.
That was very interesting. So I was just applying for jobs. I didn't even know some of it. I see a job advertised, said lollipop man, woman. I didn't even know what that was. But because I'm thinking lollipop man, what is it that you sell lollipop? You know what we got, right? Yeah. But in England, that's actually pedestrian crossers.
Yeah.
They call them lollipop.
The whole of the sign, which is the lollipop.
There you go. So, I was just applying for jobs. And for the most part, I was being declined. No experience. And I didn't have any job experience either. So I applied for a job that said steward. I didn't even know what that was either, but I applied, and they called me in, they did an interview, and right out of the interview, they sent me to do some tests like a maths and English. I did that, and right after that, it was like a recruitment drive, a lot of us. And it was just from one step to the other. And before I know it, I was in a training session. And, we were told that, okay, once you completed that, whether it was 3 or 5 hours worth of training, once you completed the training, then afterwards we'll get deployed and assigned, different shifts. So this job was to work at football matches.
Okay, stewards at a football match. Yeah, England love their football.
Right.
So there's a match in every weekend.
So they had a contract for different clubs. So, so depending on which club, so whether it was, we used to go to like Queen's Park Rangers matches, Fulham, Brentford,
So you love football?
I don't know nothing about football, and I was
not even to this day.
To this day, I support Manchester United, but
Oh
I don't
my
support
God.
Manchester United, but
We are family. We are family. That's my side as well. And we're not doing so well at the moment. But
not at all.
let's not
But
discuss that.
I'm not jumping ship.
Yes, so Queen's Park Rangers, Fulham, all those sides. You have those sides now. Fulham is in the Premier League now. So looking back, you probably can say, boy, that was a little good experience for me.
Yes.
You understand? But at that time, it probably was cold and
Oh,
thing for you.
look here, like they give you the big heavy jacket and everything because you'd be deployed in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
So when you just start, them tend to put you at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
No, the match might start 12 o'clock. You're going to be at that gate from like 8 o'clock in the morning. And
Yes,
you're
people start
standing
coming.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. And you're standing there with one break. And even if the match finishes at 1, 2 o'clock, you're usually there until like 3, 4. So
Mm-hmm.
it was very hard. But Jamaicans are everywhere. So eventually I met up with a supervisor who was a
A
Jamaican.
Jamaican,
And
God of
once
mercy.
he realized that I was Jamaican, he started looking out for me. So I
That's good.
started getting assignments, in the stand. So it wasn't
Yes,
a hole.
yes.
So he started putting me at different locations other than the gate. And,
Thank
I was
God
very
for him.
appreciative of that. Oh, yes.
Thank God for him. I think that God probably was looking out for you in some small little ways.
Listen, there's no doubt in my
Oh, you
mind.
believe it?
Oh, yes. There's no doubt
Yeah,
in my mind. Like when I look
yeah.
back on my journey and the things that I've had to endure,
Have to
and the
be
fact
God.
that I'm still sitting here speaking to you and I'm in my right mind, I'm not crazy, and it
Mm-hmm.
didn't break me, then I know God was there all along, all
Mm-hmm.
along.
So after working as a steward, you got another job.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about that one.
All right. So I applied to this company called River Island, which is a clothing company. I remember when I went in for the interview and, the guy looked at my resume and he's like, oh, you don't really have much experience and you have no retail experience.
Mm-hmm.
But he said to me, but if I don't employ you, how are you going to get experience?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually expressed to him to say that, I've been applying for a lot of jobs and that's one of
Yes.
the reasons why I've been
Somebody have to take a
declined.
chance on you. I say not gonna get
He
any
did, and
experience.
he did, and I
Yes.
was very appreciative of that. And I started as a sales rep
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, and I worked my way up. When I left that company, I was a sales manager,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to leave because of the same situation with a
Mm-hmm.
gentleman and his wife, because
Yes.
she had somehow made a phone call
Phone
to
where
the
you work.
company.
Yes.
Yep, because he came to my house.
Mm-hmm.
And by this time now, we move gone, gone from
Mm-hmm.
home because yeah.
Yes.
So he came to my house and I think he was curious to know, what I was earning now because,
Them start dig up.
for the month, yes. And he found my payslip. Now I think he must have heard me coming and he pushed the payslip in his pocket. Went home and his wife searched and found it. So she got right
She
there
don't
and then
know
he
where you
handed her
work.
everything. Oh, yes. So she called my company and told them that, I was illegal in the country.
Oh man.
And I
Because
should
you
not
hadn't got back your passport as yet and
still
everything.
hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I should not be working. Now, the fact that I was on a student visa, it meant that there was a restriction as to how much hours I could work per week, which was 20 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a sales manager, I was working full time. So I knew for a fact that I should not have been working full time. I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
So when they came to me and they said, look, we need to get your passport, from they said that to me, I was like,
You
okay,
know, the
I know
writing is on the
somehow.
wall. Yeah.
But even then, I was honest with them and I said to them, I don't have it now. I have an application pending and they asked me to get a letter from my lawyer, detailing, what was happening. And I did that and that kind of
That
smoothed
buy you
things
some
over.
time. Mm-hmm.
It did. But when they kept coming back to me and asking, is there an update? Because what you need to understand is that if they were found to be employing somebody who was illegal, they would have
Company
been
would be in
fined.
problem. Yes.
Mhm.
And they didn't
So
want to go through that.
no, it's a £5,000 fine.
No.
So, they were on me. And when I realized that they were constantly on me, I said, you know what, I'm going to have
Better
to
you leave.
resign.
Yes.
So I handed in my resignation and I left. And remember, by now, I was paying my way. I was paying my bills and doing for myself.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was jobless again. And the gentleman was asked to step in because now he would have to cover my rent and my bills and all. And again, I was back to square one. So it's like
Yes.
10
One
steps
step forward and 10 step back. Yes.
you know, and the fact that I lost my independence, it was hard on me. It was difficult because I was not back to the place where I was left at his mercy. And calling him and saying to him that what the landlord is saying, that he's calling about the rent, we need to pay the rent, and he was like, him have to wait. He can't put you out. You have a child in there. He will get locked up if he put you out and whatever. And, there was just no sense of urgency with nothing at all.
Yes.
So I decided to try and find another job. But no, you have to go get a job where them say cashing on. Because you know what the situation is.
Yes.
So I ended up getting a job in a cab company.
Yes.
And that was an experience and a half because it was a cab company that was run by Pakistanis. There were no Jamaicans there. And it was just a mixture of cultures. So you had people from Afghan, you had people from all over. But it was like a smoke pot. Everybody smoked.
Yes.
So you're sitting in there and you're just surrounded by cigarette
smoke.
Constantly. And I remember one day I sat there and I said to myself, like, this is not life.
Yes.
And it is not worth me going through all this just to say they are foreign. And I was doing a lot of introspection, like in that moment. And I was saying to myself, like, this is not what I went to school for. I went to school, I applied myself, I did well, What is this I'm doing? And in that moment, I said, I'm ready to go home.
Finally. I was wondering when you would say that.
Yes, I said, I'm ready.
It's not working out.
It's not. And I went to the gentleman and I said, look, I'm ready to go home. And he was like, yeah, I'm thinking of going back to Jamaica too because England is not working out for me.
Really?
And
that sounds surprising.
But the thing is, I think he said it because, just in case I might change my mind. Because as you can imagine, by this time now, I'm causing a lot of problems for him.
Yes. Once you're there, I think it's a consistent problem for the missus.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So he was trying now to encourage me to go home. He never wants to go on home, but the fact that I brought it up, he was supporting it to say, yes, we're going to return home.
Yeah.
And I kept being on him as like, when are you going to buy the ticket? Because I was really ready. At one point he left and he came to Jamaica and he showed me a place and he said, he started out a place, he has rented a place so that we can come back and live and I was reassured by that. But every time I asked about the ticket to leave,
you're not hearing anything.
No. So one day I took it up on myself and I called the Home Office and I said to them, look, I'm here, I have an application pending and I would like to leave.
Yes, so give me back my passport, let me leave.
They transferred me very quickly to this section.
Yes.
And this guy came on by the name of Tony. He was a very nice guy. And he said, we can't just give you back your passport because you might get the passport and decide not to leave. Yeah. So he said, have you made arrangements in terms of a flight? And I said to him, no. He said, have you bought a ticket? I said, no, I don't have the money to buy a ticket. And he said to me, we can purchase a ticket for you.
So let them want to get you out as quickly as possible. Go back to your country. You buy the ticket.
So they offered to purchase a ticket and I agreed. And he said, when do you want to leave? And, I said, all right, I'm going to leave right about the time I came here. September 11th, I'm going to leave September 15th of September. So I said, I think at this time, this was like July, we were having the conversation. And I said to him, I need a little time to get myself together, but I would leave in September. And he said, no problem. There's some documents that I would need to sign. They're going to prepare the documents. My son didn't have a passport at the time because even though he was born in England.
Yeah, they have a different policy, I understand.
Different policy from the US. So they're saying it's status of the mother. So the fact that I'm Jamaican and I never have no British status. So
he's
yes,
a Jamaican,
he has a British
as well.
birth certificate, but the thing is, when we went to the Jamaica High Commission, they're saying he's not Jamaican. So they weren't willing to give him a passport. So that's why I said to him, I said, is he an alien or something? Because he has no
Send him to Mars. Send him to Mars.
But they eventually gave me a travel document, which the immigration officers were the ones who took me to the consulate, the Jamaican consulate, to get that document. And even when I was there, the High Commissioner, they were saying, are you leaving on your own? Are they forcing you to leave? And I was like, no, I'm taking the initiative to go. And
Yeah.
say, are you sure? Are you sure?
Yes.
I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And like, there anything we can do? I was like, no, I've made
You
up
made
my
up your
mind.
mind.
I want to leave.
So how old were you at that point, and how old was your son?
Well, that would have been 2006
Mm-hmm.
because I came back 2006. So I would have been, my son was 4.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Was he? Yeah, he was 4. He was 4 at the time. So I'd have been 21.
21.
Mm-hmm.
So
21.
you're 21 and your son is 4 and you're heading back to Jamaica because things not working out in England. So you tell your mom and your family that you were coming back?
Oh yes, I told everybody that I was coming back.
Oh, I was coming back.
And yeah, man, and I started, get to like a barrel and go and pack up my little things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I was still doing the job at the cab office because then every dollar I got there, I started depositing at Victoria Mutual so that it would hit my account here.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing that because even though, the gentleman was saying that he had made arrangements for us and all of that,
You weren't
I was
sure.
still trying to have a little thing, put aside.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I left.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any hustle. Nobody never all and pull me, and that was one of the things I was worried about too, because I didn't want to be there and then I was deported.
Yes. That would have
So
been more embarrassing. So you're back in
yeah, and
Jamaica
mm-hmm.
and your mom is so happy to see you and her grandson. I can just imagine she's seeing her grandson for the first time, that she's like so happy and everything.
Yeah, both my parents
Yes.
were
And your dad.
at the airport the night
Mm-hmm.
I came back. No, my parents parted ways, I think, when I was 13. That was one of the reasons why I had to go to my grandmother too.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came out, she was at one end and he was at the other end. They were not together at all.
Mm-mm.
So, despite leaving, some things just never changed.
Never change, yes. So
But
you went
it
to that
was it
house
was
that
good
was
to be
being prepared for you
I did.
by the
I did.
gentleman. I realize you just keep calling him the gentleman. I
Yes,
don't know if
because
it's
you
an
know what it is,
appropriate phrase.
Lestine?
I
You
don't
know
want
what
his
it is?
name, but
No, but why I refer to him that way is because when I started speaking my truth and, sharing my story, people on the outskirts thought that I was trying to come back at him, or it was some revenge tactic, or,
Mhm.
and, I keep saying to people, the books I write, everything I do has absolutely nothing to do with this man. It is
Yeah,
all about me. It is all about my journey. It's
yeah.
about my
He
healing.
just happened to come
And
across your
right.
life,
So
but it's
if you
about you.
affected my life, whether positively or
You're
negatively,
gonna be in
then
it,
I have to, there you go.
but it's the focus is your life.
There you go.
So, is his name in the book, or
I
it's
changed,
a
I
code name?
changed, I changed the names in the book.
Oh,
I
you changed
changed
the
it.
name. So
I did.
sorry, guys. Even if you buy the book, you're not gonna see who this gentleman is. You just have to work with the code name. So, guys, we encourage you at this point to get the book. Tell us the title of the book, and there are a lot of other details that you have left out that is recorded in the book. Tell us the title of the book and how they can get it, and we just pick up from there.
Okay. All right. So the book is Memoir of Keatis number 17, and it's currently available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle versions. And it is also available locally from Sangster's bookstores.
Yes. So, guys, everything that we have been saying is in the book, and other details, we're strapped for time now in this little interview. So I know you guys want some more details, which you have skipped over. We encourage you to buy the book and support Stacey on this journey as she continues. So you're now back in Jamaica. You need a job. Your son needs to go to school. Just walk us through that quickly.
All right. So school right off the back, we were able to sort that out. And my son was accepted into St. Teresa prep at the time. And for me now, I started sending out job applications. I remember one interview I went on, the man said, I can't employ you because your accent is too strong and my customers
What?
won't
So you come back
Oh,
on a
yes.
twang, Stacey? So we
You
not
know,
hear no twang now. Give a little bit of twang in, man.
Lestine, for me, as far as I am concerned, I was just speaking proper English. Me never try put on a tongue and an accent. I was just speaking proper English, but the man somehow said to me that I had an accent and he couldn't accept me. So, there are other jobs I applied for and I get the letter to say unfortunately at this time.
Yes.
But a friend of mine at the time, she was working with NCB and she said to me that the project that she was working on, they were looking for other people for that project. And she gave me an email address and said I should email my resume to that person.
Okay.
So I did just that. And, I got a phone call to say, okay, come for an interview. Went for the interview and the morning I went, it's like nobody knew that I was supposed to have the interview. So, I heard when the operations manager called one and said, I have somebody here for you to interview. And I could hear the manager on the other end saying, interview? What kind of interview?
Wasn't aware.
After me, I want to interview. What me an interview for? Like, they weren't aware. They weren't aware of what was going on. So when I actually went into the manager, his whole thing was just asking me random questions. Because like I said, he was not prepared for an interview. So he looked at the resume, said, oh, you were living in England. How was it there? It was just random things. But, just like that, that door was open and, I got that job. When I started working, I was getting paid $7,000 per week. And I remember, the gentleman saying, why are you leaving your house for $7,000 per week? I could send that money because by this time then I came back, but he went back to England. So he was like, I could send them more money than that per week. You're wasting their time. But despite what he had to say, I wanted to do something for myself. I didn't want to
independent.
Yes, man, because I remember he's not one of those people who like me have short term. No, I remember exactly what I had to endure while I was in England.
And you went through a lot in England, which you haven't spoken about here. We encourage you again, guys, get the book and you will know all that you went through in England. So he didn't have a good reputation and he was not a person you could depend on either. So him telling you that you could get far more, it wasn't really coming home to you as a good news. No. So you work with your $7,000 a week until you can move up.
Until today, as I'm still employed. And I mean, this year was my 15th year at NCB.
Oh, congratulations. So you're still there, but you gradually transition to other areas.
Oh, yeah. I actually, the job I started, I'm still in delinquency management. I'm still in the same area.
Yes.
But, I have gradually moved up the salary scale, and moved up in terms of position. But I'm still in the same area. And, people I've seen where people have reached out to me offering me jobs at other institutions, like persons who I've worked with before. And, they always offer from the point where they're saying, oh, I'm offering you a managerial role and thing, because I think a lot of us get tied up with titles. But for me personally, I'm not a titles person. I'm about the remuneration. So if the money don't make any sense, then the title is not right. Yeah. So, they'll come from the standpoint to say that you've been doing this job for so long, and as if to say you're stagnant and you're not moving.
Yes.
But for me personally, I feel fulfilled where I'm at because once again, this is an area where I do get to assist people. At the low points of their lives, and I too have been at low points in my life. So it's not an area that is unfamiliar to me. So I try to guide as best as possible on their
put yourself in their shoes and try to understand what they are going through. So how was that adjustment for your son in school? You just transition right in?
No.
It wasn't so easy.
Not at all, because I don't know. At 4, I don't know what his thought process was, but his whole thing was, some people were too black. And he didn't want. Oh yes, that was a thing for him.
Never used to see so much black people.
So even like my mother couldn't come near him for the first couple of weeks or touch him or anything, and he's like, "Oh, don't touch me, you're too black."
So you have a similar complexion as he, or he has your complexion?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so you must say, what is this? You could not be related to me.
I always say to him, it's a good thing you leave England because you'd be a little racist.
It's true. It's true. Thank God him come home. So
But he eventually, made a quick transition. And, I'm very proud of him because all through prep school, he was an honor roll student.
that's good.
All through Woolmer's boys, he was an honor roll student right up to sixth form. And now he's at his second year in UWI. And, I'm just proud of, because despite, all the changes that he has had to, embrace,
Yes.
he still continued to excel, and I'm very grateful to God for that. Because, sometimes, the transitions, it really does take a toll on the children.
Yes.
And I know, because I struggled when my parents parted ways. It was something that was hard for me. I used to go visit the guidance counselor at Alpha, crying out my eyes and all of that, because I didn't know how to balance. But you see, when I go home the day, and I send call my mother and said, this is what she's struggling with. This when I go home the day, and she said, look here, don't make school come back. Business in a big people things.
Okay.
Yes. So it's like, look, whatever is happening, whatever feelings you have,
don't make that concern you.
It doesn't matter what you feel. Go and do your schoolwork.
So let me just ask you this question. I don't get the feeling that this was a very fulfilling relationship. What was the worst thing that you have had to endure during that relation? Because it eventually ended, right?
It did.
What's one of the worst thing you had to endure during your relationship, if you can say?
Like, I'm here, you're asking me the question.
So much things you can say.
Like, there's so many things,
Just say the first one.
What is the worst? But I think the worst for me would have been when I was physically attacked in front of my child.
Yes.
And, the after effect that it had on him. And I mean, while I was writing this book, there are 2 times, because, persons asked me to say, how is it reliving all of that? Writing it, what was it like? Was it very emotional for you? And for the most part, it wasn't. But there are just 2 instances while writing that book where, I was brought to tears. And one was when I spoke about the death of my father. And the second one was when I spoke about being physically attacked in the presence of my child, and just how it affected him afterwards, and how it affected him at school and all, all that, that's something that weighed heavily on me, because I'm saying.
So just to be clear, your child's father, the gentleman, physically attacked you for what reason?
No, this was 1 year after we had parted ways.
Yes.
So the house I was at, as you know from before,
Yes.
he was the one who rented the place. So the lease was his lease. But once we decided to part ways, remember, he doesn't live here. So the agreement was, okay, he would continue to pay the rent because his child is there. I would have to take care of the bills and everything else. And that was fine with me. But I think when he realized that it wasn't a sham this time, I wasn't saying it is over and then I'm going to come back like I've always done. It was really over.
Yes.
I think it was a hard pill for him to swallow. So he tried to be in my face as much as possible. Usually when we were together, once he was in Jamaica, he had a place rented separately from where I was, because that's where he would go with all the other females that he had here. So now that we're not together, he was like, okay, I don't want to be spending money to rent somewhere else. And, the place is my place. So if I'm coming there, I'm going to have to stay there. And listen, in all honesty, that was fine with me, because I knew for a fact that I was done and I was over with everything. So you being in my face constantly was nothing to me. It's not going to change anything, So we were in the same space. I used to sleep with my son, and we're there and we're in the same space. But I've never, in the time we have parted ways, I've never given him any impression as though there was any hope of us getting back together. Because, sometimes people will judge and they will try to say, you led the person on, and that's why that happened. Right? I did not. I did not. Everything, every time he came to it was shut down. He was even sending my son to me constantly to say, oh, I want us to be a family again. My son don't know about all of that. You are the
Yes.
one that's planting that seed in his head
So
and telling him to come to me.
your son witnessed that attack, and I guess he was traumatized and crying and everything.
He was, because what happened when he went to school, he was in the 4th grade at the time, and his teacher called me and she said to me, "Are you okay?" And I was wondering where she was going with it. And I said to her, "Yes, I'm okay." And she said, "Are you sure?" And I asked her why. And she said, "Well, your son is here at school and he's crying and he's saying that he needs to get home, because if he doesn't get home to protect you, his father is going to hurt you."
Yeah.
And, when she said that to me, like, I felt so defeated in that moment, because I'm like, I feel as though I failed my child.
Yeah, because it's now
And she
affecting
said to me,
him
"I have to come and
seriously.
pick him up." Yep. And that continued like for about 3 days. He would not stay in school. As soon as they drop him off, they'd call me and tell me to come and pick him up, because he was just crying uncontrollably there. So, his teacher called me back again, and she said, "Look, tell his father that he needs to have a conversation with him. He needs to apologize to him about what happened. And he needs to reassure him and tell him that nothing like that will ever happen again." And, she was saying that's one of those things that she think can actually help him, because he was just not functioning at school at all.
Yes.
So his father
question,
did that.
Stacey. It might be a silly question, but during this relationship, was there, you really love this man at any point in time? Like you said, I see myself spending the rest of my life with him.
Let's see, the man and I was after everything what happened in England, after coming back here, we were engaged to be married.
What? Why would you do that?
We were engaged to be married. We were supposed to have gotten married on February 5th, 2011. We were engaged to be married.
So there was some hope there of being a nice family.
Saying, oh yes, and that was one of the things that kept me, or held me captive too. It was just this longing to have this ideal family that society has said to us that this is what is acceptable. This is what your family is supposed to look like. So I was on a path to say, look, I want my son to have his father around. I want us to have this nuclear family situation and all of that. So I was really working towards that. So I was putting aside everything that was happening, and I was like, look, I'm going to get this family.
Yes. And for the benefit of the viewers, when you were in England, there was his wife. Were there other women as well in the picture?
Yes.
What about in Jamaica? When you came back to Jamaica, it was you, was him, and it was the wife, and it was other women as well?
Lots of other women.
You're always in some contention.
Always in some problem. But you know what it was? It's like let me tell you what my philosophy was. It's better I'm stick to the evil woman, no?
Oh my.
Than go to a road, go buck up somebody else who 10 times worse. No, I will say to you,
that was a mistake.
Don't do that.
Is there any time we should stick to the evil that we know? Maybe sometime, but not all times that is applicable.
No, the thing is, if we see the signs and we know for a fact that, this is who this person is, they're not going to change.
It's actually getting worse.
It's pointless wasting our time. It's pointless hoping that they'll change, because even if it is that people change because we are saying to them, this is what we want from you, the change is going to be short-lived, because they're not changing because they see an issue with who they are and the things that they're doing. They're doing it because we have highlighted something and said, okay, I think you need to change that. But people have to be willing to change for themselves. They have to get up every day and look and say, all right, I don't want to be this person anymore. These things that I'm doing, I want to stop doing these things. If not, you're going to have the same problem over and over.
So how did you walk away from this 10-year relationship? And what did you move on to in the next chapter of your life? What came next?
All right. So, like I said, we were engaged to be married, and I was still having the same issues, the same woman problem, woman I call phone. And that's the thing, I don't trouble people. I'm not that type of person. But if it is that you're going to call my phone or send me a message, then I'm going to actually respond. And that was something too that I realized, that sometimes based on the people that we're around, they bring out things in us that we never even know was there. Because me wouldn't in my wildest dreams think that me that be a war boat and every day me get up on a war with people and cuss with people and whatever. That's not me. That's not who I was as a person.
Yes.
But that's who I had to become based on the situation I was in, and the fact that I had to always be in constant defense mode and war mode, and so it brought out another side that I didn't even know existed, and I'm grateful that I was able to exit that. But yeah, I realized the man was not changing, and I said to myself, it doesn't make any sense, because I'm going to be married in a situation that we're going to be having the same problems. By this time, he was divorced.
Yes.
So I just
but
said
that never
to him,
changed anything, because there are still multiple other women.
Same way. And I just said to him, well, one night there was this big excitement, but I won't even get into that. But after this whole excitement, I said, this man is not going to change. And I told him, I said, look, it doesn't make any sense. So I think, we should just call it a day and just call off the wedding. But I think in that moment, he thought I was just pulling the curtains down on the whole wedding thing, but we would still be together. I don't know how that, but he said to me, I'm happy you called off the wedding, because I wasn't ready to get married, and I did things that I thought, would have pushed you to call it off. So I said to him, then why couldn't we have a conversation like adults? And you just said to me, boy, you're not ready to get married, and we'll just move on from, because probably I was feeling the same way too. So we could have have that conversation and just take it from there.
Yes.
He said, no. He said, if him did for call it off, my family, what the things
you have him head,
about him and this and that. And what, so he said, he left it to me to call it off.
Yes.
But it was just the audacity. After I said, okay, then this is it. Like 1 month later, he was like, okay, so yes, we've called off the wedding, but let us still have a relationship. And I was like, no, like I'm done. Like everything, I'm done with everything. This is it, And that was just it for me. And it took me about 4 years to work on myself, because, I had a lot of trauma from that relationship. And right now, had I not worked on myself, probably I would have viewed you like I viewed him, because in my mind, like every male was the same thing. Every male was like him. Every male was going to come and do the same things that he did to me, and all of that. So, it's very important on our journeys for us to actually invest in healing.
Yes.
And working on ourselves, and being able to see people thereafter for who they are as individuals,
yes.
and not carrying the baggage from our old situations into the new, and in turn, kind of, overwhelming that unsuspecting person with that baggage and breaking them in the process, because then we have this chain of brokenness going on, where nobody has taken the time to fix themselves, and then we're just going from one person to the other and just throwing out all of this negative energy that we have inside of us and projecting it on them.
So we have to learn to basically deal with each aspect of our lives that it come, and don't carry it to the next stage, because it's going to be detrimental.
It will be.
Tell us about the 2 other books that you have as we kind of come to a close.
Okay, I did a journal which is called My Mental Fitness Journal. This is currently only available on Amazon. And the journal is just to provide an outlet for people to, go and write some of the things, because journaling was something that worked for me. I think it was something that kept me sane, because sometimes when things became a little bit too much and you got tired of going to the same people and telling them the same thing, because it's like a scratch record.
Yes.
Because you have a situation, you go and you tell them, and they're saying to you, do this, do that, but you're not listening. So when the same situation arises again, you don't want to go back to the same people because remember, they already told you what you needed to do and you didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that journaling, writing the things that I was going through, helped me. And so I developed this mental fitness journal, just to give persons that outlet to share their thoughts, because sometimes we feel as though there are certain things that we can't share with anybody, but at least we can write it down. Sometimes while writing it, it is going to be so difficult on it because seeing some of the things in black and white, it is going to, bring out a lot of emotion, but it is good. It's part of the healing journey. So I encourage that. The other book I'm working on, which should be out very soon, is Somebody's Fool. And that it's like a guide as to how to work on the trauma, to heal after you've exited like a relationship. Just some of the things that you need to focus on, to help on the healing journey.
That will be published this year or probably early next year.
Yes, this year for definite. I'm just putting in the finishing touches now.
Okay, then.
It's like it was something I'd planned to have, 12 chapters. And I got to the 12th chapter and I just felt as though it's not complete. So
you're not rushing it.
It just felt as though there's still something missing. There's something else that I need to put in there. So, and I'm working on that. And I must say, Leslie, that these days I'm actually, going as I'm led, so I'm following the guidance that, I'm given, the divine guidance that I'm given. Like I said, I came to the end of it. I was very happy with myself to say that, okay, I've completed this, but I was going back through it and I just thought that, no, there's still something more to come. So I'm working on that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Stacey. As we highlighted before, there's so many other details that you did not mention. Guys, you have to get the book in order to find out more about what Stacey went through, both in England and in Jamaica when she came back, and other details about the process, the transition from abusive relationship to one that, has to be about your mental wellness, your mental health, your space. You have to control all of that. And nothing is impossible. There might be persons out there who are going through difficult relationship. And as you said, Stacey, at one point you said, better you stick to the evil that you know. Yes. But that's not the answer, guys. You can overcome. You can go through. Stacey gave you the example as a young teenager in a foreign land and getting sidetracked from her studies with a pregnancy, but that didn't determine where she is now. So guys, whatever you have gone through or going through, let's use that as you building your story or your testimony, because even the negative experiences that you have gone through, you're now in a position to talk to somebody and to encourage them from a place of experience. You can say, I was there, I've been there, this was how I overcome my situation, so you can too. So every situation in life is there for a reason. It's not going to be smooth all the time. And even when you're going through the bad times, it's always good to know that it can benefit others in the future. So remember, no man is an island. We're all connected, whether we want to believe it or not. We are not here alone. So one person's experience can help another. Before we go, just want to highlight Kevancha Enterprise, our sponsor, again, for the very best in tires and lubricants for your motor car or your vans, or any vehicle that you drive. You need engine oil, you need power steering fluid, you need any type of motor oil whatsoever. They have tires, good brands, Goodyear, Firestone. You can just give them a call at 876-384-4892. You just tell them the size of the tire that you currently have, and they'll be able to assess your needs and give you a good discount. Just tell them you saw it here on TTN, A Story to Tell, Thank you so much, Stacey, for sharing with us, and to our viewers for joining us another time for a lovely story shared by Stacey. Until next time, guys, have a great day.